What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the great folks at NerdTees, and welcome to week 16 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2018-2019 NFL regular season and playoffs, and I got a lot of energy today. It's the first really big snowfall of the year for us here in Nova Scotia, and it's just enough snow to make everything look beautiful. But more than that, it's Christmas coming up very soon. This is basically the Christmas episode of the show. My birthday's coming up tomorrow. I'm going to be 34, which means I'm an old man, but my birthday's tomorrow. And basically, for the first time in months, we had a winning week across the board. First of all, straight up, respectable, 10-6, hit the double digits. If you can do that every week, you're in good shape. Has me 141 up and 81 down with the two ties from earlier this season. Against the spread, we were on the happy side of par, just barely. 8-7-1 against the spread last week. We got our fifth push of the season against the spread. Has me 110 up, 109 down with the 5 pushes against the spread. So we're just that little bit over 50% against the spread for the season, and over under just by going with my gut and capping the games the way I think the games are going to go. I went 8-7-1 on the totals. Do you know the last time that I was not at 500 but had a week that was over 500? At least one game over 500? You got to go all the way back to week 6. That's depressing as hell, but we did it. It took until week 15, but damn it, we did it. 8-7-1 on the over-unders has me 93 up, 128 down with the 3 pushes. Platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks were a bit of a mixed bag this week. Only went 3-1 straight up. I actually missed my gold pick with the Eagles pulling off that victory over the Rams. Certainly a victory that I did not see coming. Philly beats the Rams, so I miss out on my gold pick straight up. Against the spread, only went 1-2-1. The one that I did get was the platinum pick with Houston covering -6 points against the Jets, winning that game 29-22. Totals, I went 2-2. I correctly told you to go over 41.5 points in my platinum pick of Houston and New York, and told you to go over 44 points in Atlanta and Arizona. Atlanta obviously blowing out the Cardinals last week, 40-14, finally starting to look like the Atlanta Falcons. So 3-1 straight up, only 1-2-1 against the spread, unfortunately, and 2-2 on the totals. Taking a look at the Bridgewater's finest and official NFL YouTube prognosticators pick'em pools in week 15 action. We'll start with the Bridgewater's finest pool. I currently sit in 4th place now out of 42. I've crawled my way into the top 5. Let's go back 4 weeks. Let's go back to after the week 11 games heading into week 12. I sat 12th place in this pool 4 weeks ago. I'm now inside the top 5, making that late season push. 1,212 out of 1,793 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 68%, and right now it's the same percentile clip as our overall leader if you don't worry about rounding. In week 15, I brought in 88 of 136 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 65%. It's a respectable week. It was not good enough, however, to win week 15. Shout out to our week 15 winner, Halfmoon's Picks. Halfmoon's Picks, a longtime member of the NFL YouTube prognostication community. He wins week 15, 12-4 straight up. Actually brought in 98 of 136 possible confidence points. That is a clip of 72% and was good enough to win week 15. West Coast Martin remains our overall leader, has the same straight up record as me, 141, 81, and 2, has managed the confidence points just a little bit better, 1,225 out of 1,793. That's also a clip of 68%, which means 1st place and 4th place, we're only split up by 13 points. That's one good pick. In the NFL YouTube prognosticators pool, I now sit in a tie for 2nd place out of the 49 people making picks. 112 against the spread wins according to Yahoo's lines. Out of the 224 games that have been played so far in the NFL, that's a clip of exactly 50%. In week 15, I only got 7 of them according to Yahoo's lines. 7 of the 16 games picked correctly. That's only a clip of 44%. Certainly not good enough to win Week 15. Shout out to our Week 15 co-winners, 2 former and actually 1 current overall leader in this pool, MNBeast and BTGJerry. They both went 12-4 last week, so 12 of the 16 games correct. That's a clip of 75%, and it was good enough to share in the victory in Week 15. MNBeast remains the overall leader, as I believe he was last week. He might have shared it with somebody. No, actually, he wasn't. It was me and West Coast Martin last week. That's right. MNBeast coming from behind to now take the overall lead. 114 out of the 224 games played. That's a clip of 51%. It's good enough to be the overall leader. Shout out to West Coast Martin and MNBeast for being our overall leaders. Halfmoon's picks MNBeast and BTGJerry for winning Week 15. Let's take a peek now into Fantasy Corner and see how my 8 fantasy football teams did in Week 15 action. Of course, we're now knee-deep into the fantasy playoffs, no matter what league you're in. Obviously, I didn't make the playoffs in either one of my Dynasty leagues. We're into the consolation rounds here. In the Professionals Dynasty pool, picked up the loss against Antonio Brown notes. I take on Keith Bailey this coming week. It's a projected win for me. In the Progs League, I beat Matt Coons, Stat Pack, Matt the NFL Fanatic. I've got a matchup this coming week against Halfmoon. See if I can avenge the fact that he won my pool this week. In my public league playoffs, which if you'll remember, I made the playoffs in 3 of those 6 pools, which means I only made it in 4 out of 8 overall because I lost in the first round of the Dynasty League. So thumbs down on that one. I went 2-1 in my public league playoffs last week, which means I've made 2 finals matchups and I'm going into a 3rd place game as well. It's not bad, but again, and I feel like I am getting old because I'm like, Sonny, back in my day, last week I made the playoffs in all 4 leagues and won 3 championships. So I mean, it's frustrating to that I'm only in 2 championship games and a 3rd place game in public leagues this year, but everybody comes back down to the mean. That's a look at Fantasy Corner. And of course, I'll take this opportunity to remind you, as I always do, that if you go to the description of the video file on YouTube or of the audio file on iTunes or SoundCloud, you can find all of my results from last week, all my straight up against the spread and over-under plays for Week 16 in the NFL, information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest or NFL YouTube prognosticators pick'em pools for this season. It's never too late. Information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, and of course, information on our great friends at NerdTees. Ladies and gentlemen, nerdtees.ca, use that promo code BWFinest, save yourself 15% at checkout, free shipping in Canada on any order over $75 because of the postal strike, and if you're in the US, boom boom, 2 clicks of a button, everything's over in US prices. You get a great conversion on the US dollar right now. Today's blend is Tangerine Twist, and I don't know that it's one that I've actually talked about on the show before. It's pretty self-explanatory. It tastes like tangerine. It smells like tangerine. It's smooth and delicious. Keeps you warm on a snowy day such as today. nerdtees.ca, use that promo code BWFinest. You're going to save all that stuff. You're going to get the free shipping because you're going to order a ton of it because NerdTees is fantastic. Find yourself something to love or find someone you love something to love. You can do it on nerdtees.ca. The playoff picture is definitely coming into focus here, but not everything has been decided yet. There's still plenty that is up for grabs in Week 16. Let's get into the picks for Week 16 in the NFL. Let's get started in Los Angeles, where the Chargers, coming off of the long week, having played on Thursday night last week against Kansas City in a victorious effort, might I add, which I did call on this show. We got the Chargers playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. Chargers have won 4 straight games. They're one of the hottest, if not, in fact, they are the hottest team in the AFC right now with 4 straight wins, won 4 of their last 5. They've now pulled into a tie with the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC West at 11-3. So both of those teams go into the playoffs, but who knows who's going to get those home games. It's a really tight matchup here. And the Chargers, despite the fact that they're playing a Baltimore Ravens team that is above 500, they're right in the thick of the race for the AFC North. Nothing has been decided in that division yet, whether it's going to be the Steelers or the Ravens who are going to get that home game. And the other one, who knows, depending on how everything else falls out, might not even make the playoffs. it's a pretty decent spot, I would think, for the Chargers to be in. You could take it from the perspective of, oh, well, the Chargers already know they're going to the playoffs. You know, why would they risk, you know, going all out to win a game like this? Yo, if they get a home game or if they get a first round bye, which is still very much up for grabs in the AFC, as a matter of fact, whoever wins this division is likely going to get one of those first round buys. That is a huge carrot at the end of the stick for the LA Chargers. They want that, and they want that desperately. I feel like they're in more of a desperation mode maybe than the Baltimore Ravens are, because look, we basically know that division is going to come down to what happens in week 17. So it's not 1000% imperative for Baltimore to win this football game. It's also not a great spot for Baltimore being on the road. They've always been kind of an average road team. They're only 3-4 right now. They've only won 6 of the 10 games against AFC opponents. I just think this is the Chargers' game to lose. I don't think it's a game they can afford to lose with the team that they're trying to catch. I'm going to take the home team here. Let's go LA on the long week to beat Baltimore in LA. On the line, Chargers are 4.5-point favorites at home. I think I got a hedge there, and it's not a good hedge. It's, in fact, what I like to call a bad hedge. But I think I'm going to go Baltimore plus 4.5. It's entirely possible, obviously, that Baltimore wins this football game. This is two likely playoff-bound teams, two very good football teams. It's entirely possible. The Ravens are 3-1 against the spread this season on the road as a dog of anything. If they're an underdog on the road, they've covered 3 of 4 times. So I just think 4.5 points might be too many. Chargers win. They might win only by a couple of points. Baltimore could win the game outright. So let's play it a little conservative on this one. Let's go Baltimore plus the 4.5. Total in the game set at 44.5 points. Let's go 25-23 Los Angeles. That's 48 points. Let's go over 44.5. Let's go to Cleveland now, another battle of the AFC North. We got the Browns playing host to the lowly Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe it's not fair to say lowly, but I mean, they are in last place in that division. Both of these teams won last week. Cleveland has in fact won 2 straight games. They're at 6-7-1. And look, a season above 500 is very much in the cards here for the Cleveland Browns. It's very much a possibility. They're not even dead in the playoff race yet. Bengals have only won 1 of their 4 games within the division so far this season. They got back-to-back division games to end the season, as do Cleveland. They got back-to-back division games to end the year as well. I think this just flat comes down to, I don't trust Cincinnati. Now look, I don't trust Cleveland a ton either, but the fact that I can sit here in week 16 of the 2018 season and say, I trust the Cleveland Browns more than I trust the Cincinnati Bengals, if I'd have told myself that even 2 years ago or last year, I would have probably thought I suffered some kind of stroke. This is reality. This is where we're at. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns to win this football game. They've been good at home this year. They've won, I think, 4 of their 6 home games this year? 4 of their 6, 4 of their 7? 4 of their 7. They're 4-2-1 at home. They're guaranteed a winning record at home this year, but I think they want to go out, make a statement against a division rival. All the momentum in the world will be the Cleveland Browns heading into next season off of what they've done this year. I think their last home game, they want to close it out on a real positive note. I think they do that. Cleveland beats Cincinnati. On the line, Browns are favored by a touchdown. Let's not go nuts. Like I just said, I trust the Cleveland Browns, at least more so than I trust Cincinnati. I don't trust them to be a favorite of a full touchdown. That has taken things a little too far. I would expect that this line will plummet between now and game time. I would expect Cleveland to maybe be 4-point favorites, 4.5, maybe even 3.5, depending how heavy people bet the other side of this. To me, this is way too many points. These two teams are pretty comparable, certainly with the way they're playing right now. So let's take those points. Let's go Cincinnati plus the 7 points. Total in the game is set at 45. Let's go 26-23 in favor of Cleveland. That's 49 points. Let's go over the 45-point total in Cincinnati, Cleveland. Let's go to Detroit now, another divisional battle of the NFC North. We got the Lions playing host to the Minnesota Vikings, and this is one of the more intriguing matchups of the week to me because one team has absolutely nothing to play for. The other team is still fighting for a potential wild card spot. They're not totally out of that conversation yet, and yet, I don't know, I feel a little spoilery in this one. Vikings did win last week and the Lions lost. So look, it's two teams going in opposite directions. But over the last 5 games, these two teams have an identical record of 2-3. Neither one of them performing particularly well lately, and that's more of a surprise of the Vikings than it is of the Lions. This is potentially a nightmare matchup for the Vikings because they have not been good on the road this year. They're 2-4-1. They're going to have a losing record on the road this year. They've been good at home, and that's been the only thing really that saved them. The Lions by no means world beaters in their own building. They've won 3 of their 7 games only, but this is an opportunity for the Lions to finish the regular season at 500 in their own building. That's at least something to say, okay, well, at least we were 50-50 at home, and maybe that's something to build off of for next season, get everybody healthy, come back better in 2019. I actually like the Lions here in the upset, a divisional matchup. They know each other very well. This would, of course, be a death blow to the Vikings' playoff chances. It wouldn't absolutely kill them, but it definitely hurts them big time. The Lions have a chance here to play spoiler. I think they're going to. Here's an upset pick for the week. Detroit at home beats the Vikings to really hurt their playoff shot. On the line, the Lions are 5.5-point dogs at home here. I think this is a line that you would hedge on one way or the other, no matter who you like to win the game. I like Detroit to win outright, so obviously we're going to be on Detroit plus the 5.5. Total in the game is set at 43.5 points. We're going to go 23-21 in favor of the Lions. That is just barely an over of the 43.5. Let's go over 43.5 points. Let's go to Indianapolis now, where the Colts are going to play host here to the New York Giants. Colts certainly have not wrapped up their trip to the playoffs just yet. They're at 8-6, which means they're in the thick of that wild card 2 conversation, but they're in there with a few teams. They're in there with division rival Tennessee. They're in there with Baltimore or Pittsburgh, whoever doesn't win out of that division. They're even in there with the Miami Dolphins, who are not out of this conversation yet. But a team that is out of the conversation is the New York Giants. And this is just me talking, so who knows? I could be completely out of my rear end here. I honestly think the Giants should just shut Odell Beckham down for the rest of the year. I don't think they've made that decision yet, but what's the point? What's the point of trotting him out here in 2 meaningless games? Even if you won both of them, you still can't make the playoffs. They're meaningless games. Sit the dude, let him get healthy, come back as a dominant force next year because he's going to be pissed off that he didn't get to play the last 2 games of the season. Motivate a guy like that, and he could be world beating. That's just me. Maybe I'm completely off base with that. I doubt the Giants are going to do that. I just like the Colts in this situation. Giants haven't been great on the road. Well, they are 3-4, which for a team like that's actually better than they've been at home. The Colts have been quite good at home this year at 5-2. Colts have won 2 straight games. They're playing for a lot more. We're going to take Indianapolis in this one. Let's take the Colts on their home field to hang yet another loss on the New York Giants. On the line, Colts are favored by 9 points at home. That's just way too many for me. It's another one of those instances where I think no matter how you want to go in this game, you hedge it either way, which is exactly what I'm going to do. The Giants are 6-1 against the spread on the road this year. That's because everyone has underrated them on the road all season long. 6-1 against the spread away from their own building. 9 points is way too many. We're going to take those points. Giants plus 9. Total in the game is set at 46.5 points. We're going to go 24-20 in favor of the Indianapolis Colts. So we're going to stick under the 46.5 point total. Let's go to Miami now, where the Dolphins are going to play host to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Miami, Florida versus Jacksonville, Florida. As we mentioned before, Dolphins are not totally done here in the wildcard conversation in the AFC. I think they need to win out, and I think they need some help, but this is a winnable matchup for the Dolphins simply based on the fact that they have played so dynamite at home this season. 6-1 in their own building. are the Miami Dolphins. And then you look at Jacksonville, they've only won 1 of their 6 road games so far this season. They have absolutely reverted back to the Jacksonville of a couple of years ago that had no idea whatsoever how to win on the road. You could barely call this a road game, I guess, because, I mean, look, it's going to take place in Florida. Jacksonville's in Florida. So, I mean, look, you're right there. But I just don't think they go into Miami and beat Miami with how good Miami's been in their own building. Let's take the Dolphins here to hopefully keep, for them anyway, their playoff hopes alive. We're going to take the Dolphins in a game that they have to win. On the line, Dolphins are favored by 4 points at home. Dolphins, interestingly enough, with, again, how good they've been at home this year, they are also 3-0 against the spread as a home favorite of less than a touchdown, which is exactly what they are in this game as a 4-point favorite. Let's take Miami to cover that. We're going to take the Dolphins -4. Total in the game set at 39.5 points. I'm going to go 27-21 Miami in this football game. We're going to go well over the 39.5 point total. Let's go to New York now, where the Jets are going to play host to my lowly Green Bay Packers. And Packers coming in on back-to-back road games. They haven't won a road game all year. They're going to win this one. Does that make me sound like an addict/compulsive gambler? Sure it does. But look, this team is too good to lose 8 games on the road in a single season. They're too good to be 0-8 on the road. They're not a great team, but they're not a terrible team either. They've got to win a game on the road this year. I'm just playing the percentages. It's only really, truly bad teams that I would think would go winless on the road in a full season. And the Jets are not exactly a shining beacon of how to play in your own building. They're only 2-5. They're 1-4 in their last 5 games. If they're going to win any game on the road, it's going to be this one. Please, God, I know Randall Cobb just got a concussion. I know Brian Balaga's still hurt. I know Aaron Jones is probably done for the year, but please, just let them Aaron Rodgers the Jets. That's the way we're going to go here. Green Bay wins on the road. Despite the fact that it's back-to-back road games, I think they'll hopefully at least win one of them, and that would be this one. On the line, this game's a pick'em. It started as Jets being 3-point dogs at home. It's now all the way up to a pick'em. I realize that Aaron Rodgers is dealing with some soreness in his groin, but it doesn't look like that's going to affect his availability. I think Vegas has overreacted to that. I'm taking Green Bay to win, so let's take Green Bay as a pick'em. Total in the game is set at 44 points. We're going to go by the slimmest of margins here. We're going to go 24-23 in favor of the Packers. So we are going to go over the 44-point total. Let's go to Philly now, where the Eagles, behind Nick Foles, doing it again. The Eagles picked up a huge win last week. Now they get to come home. They're going to play host to a Houston Texans team that's on back-to-back road games. Look, the Texans, they've done their job on the road this year. They're 5-2 in their 7 road games. They've played very well. They haven't wrapped up the division just yet. They're only at 10-4. Both the Colts and the Titans are at 8-6, so they're both still very much in this conversation. Houston has plenty to play for in this football game, but they are very firmly in the driver's seat. The Eagles are not. The Eagles are at 7-7. They're a game back in the division. They're in the thick of the second wild card race in the NFC with a handful of other teams. Seattle kind of sitting in the driver's seat for a wild card at 8-6. But there's a couple of teams at 7-7, 7-6-1. Even a 6-8 team I don't think is absolutely dead in the water, although I think maybe Carolina might be based on the tiebreakers. But Philly has to be the more desperate football team here. They know they don't have Carson Wentz. Their medical staff are apparently morons and misdiagnosed a goddamn back fracture. But look, they're not going to have him probably for the rest of the season. It's Nick Foles' team once again. That has to be uplifting to certainly the segment of the fan base that's like, Nick Foles should be our quarterback anyway, completely ignoring that you have a franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. I think the Eagles have to take motivation here. They know it's in their hands. They know what they got to do. They probably got to win out. Winning out might win them the division, but winning out will probably get them into the playoffs at 9-7. I think they have to be the more desperate team between the two. I think Philly's going to win this game. It's a good spot for them in their own building, a team that's on back-to-back road games, a team that won on the road last week. It's tough to do it twice in a row. I think this is a good spot to grab Philly. On the line, the Eagles are only a 1-point favorite at home, so we like them to win. It's the smallest of prices to pay, essentially. Let's take Philly minus the 1 point. Total in the game is set at 45. I'm going to go 23-21 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's only 44 points. We're going to stay under 45. Let's go to Carolina now, where the Panthers, fresh off of essentially giving away that game last week, a very winnable situation for them, an incredible defensive play towards the end of the game, puts the ball into your team's hands with a chance to go down the field and at least tie the game, if not win it. And they just completely pooped their pants on the last possession. Carolina gets to come home now, or rather stay at home, I guess, because the Saints were in their building last week. They got another division game here. They got to play the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta possibly getting their groove back in that game last week. 40 points. Granted, it was against Arizona, but still, it's 40 points is 40 points. It had to feel good to them to be like, oh yeah, we remember how to score a bunch of points. I mean, they've been a bad road team all season, and Carolina's been a very good home team, but I don't know what I'm going to get from Cam Newton. Cam Newton looked as bad last night as I think I've ever seen him look as a quarterback. I don't know what he was doing on some of these throws. It was like he was just like, whenever he went to throw the ball, he like contorts his entire body backwards and then whips his upper body around as he's trying to throw the ball. A lot of people were talking about a shoulder injury. I know he's been sort of off and on the questionable tag for a few weeks. And look, maybe that's what it is. I mean, look, the Panthers have lost 6 straight games. This was a 6-2 football team a month and a half ago, and now they're 6-8. So it certainly has not gone well in the second half of the season for Carolina. Is it possibly time to just shut Cam Newton down? Don't think you can make the playoffs anymore. Don't think 8-8's going to get it done. Do you just shut Cam down for the season? What's the point of sending him out there again in back-to-back meaningless football games? Why would you do that with a franchise player? It's possible, who knows, maybe he might play the first half or something like that, but I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see Cam Newton finish the season. Despite how bad Atlanta's been on the road, I think this is actually a pretty good spot for them. I think they've got all the momentum coming into this one after a good performance on both sides of the ball last week. Obviously, it's a greater test for their defense this week against a Carolina team that certainly knows how to score points and has some really dangerous weapons. But if Carolina does not have Cam Newton or has a limited Cam Newton, I really like Atlanta's chances here. I'm going to take the Falcons in the upset. I'm going to take Atlanta on the road in Carolina to beat the Panthers. On the line, Panthers are still 4-point favorites in this game. I think this is probably another one. It's not a great hedge, but I think it's one where you probably hedge either way. But I like Atlanta to win outright, so we're going to take the Falcons plus the 4 points. Total in the game is set at 50 points. I'm going to go 24-23 in favor of Atlanta, so we're going to stay under the 50-point total. Let's go to Arizona now. Cardinals are going to play host to the Los Angeles Rams, and poor Arizona. Just poor Arizona, because now you've got a raging hornet's nest on the other side of the field from you. The LA Rams ain't happy about the fact that they lost that game last week. How could they be? They've been dominant all season. They lose a game like that, they ain't happy. And poor Arizona is going to have to suffer for it, I think. This is about all I'm going to talk about with this game. Rams, I think, are going to win this thing fairly comfortably. I don't see Arizona putting up a ton of resistance in this one. We're going to take the Rams on the road in Arizona to beat the Cardinals. But against the spread, we're going a different way. We're hedging our bets here. We're saying that that's too many points. I'm taking the home team with the 14 points. The Rams as a favorite of more than a touchdown this season, or rather a touchdown or more, I should say. They're only 4-6 against the spread. With how good this offense has been, defense, not the greatest. I mean, look, scoring defense sometimes looks good, but total defense, there's some issues with that Rams team. I just think 14 points is too many. I could very easily see this being a 10-point game, which is the way I'm going with it, but 14 points, just too many for me. Total in the game is set at 47.5 points. I'm going to go 29-19 in favor of the Rams. That is just barely over the 47.5 point total. Let's go to San Francisco now, where the 49ers are going to play host to the Chicago Bears. Chicago, not a ton left to play for this season. They know they're going to win their division. They've essentially, I think they've played themselves out of a shot at a first-round bye. I mean, look, they've played very well lately. I just don't think they're going to catch either the Saints or the Rams in terms of getting one of those first-round byes. So they know they're going to get a comfortable matchup in their own building against a wild card team. That's got to feel pretty good for them. Niners are playing for pride, and they've reeled off 2 straight wins. I don't think that's a team that's good enough to win 3 straight games. I don't think Chicago has hit the point yet where they're going to start sitting people. So, I mean, if you got a full complement of Chicago Bears out there, I just don't think the Niners are good enough on either side of the football that they're going to win that game, even though the game is in their own building. I like Chicago. I'm going to take the Bears on the road here to beat San Francisco, get another win, get up to 11 wins, and then worry about resting some starters next week. On the line, Bears are 4-point favorites on the road, so obviously San Fran, a 4-point dog. Chicago's been getting it done as favorites of this amount this season. They're 5-2 against the spread as a favorite of less than a touchdown, which they are in this game. So we're going to take Chicago minus the 4 points. Total in this one is 42.5. We're going to go 26-20 in favor of Chicago. So we're going to go over the 42.5 point total. Now, this is a marquee matchup this week. The New Orleans Saints get to come home having won that game that arguably maybe they should have lost or should have at least gone to overtime. New Orleans finally gets to come home after playing 3 straight road games. They are on the short week. They got to welcome in the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a game this is going to be. Saints have won 2 straight games. They're 4-1 in their last 5. They are a dominating 5-1 in their own building and get to finish their season with back-to-back home games. That's a real good feeling for them. You go up and you look at the Steelers, bit of a different story. They won last week, but they're only 2-3 in their last 5 games. Not exactly going in the right direction when you want to make a statement heading towards the playoffs. On the road, they've been pretty good this season. They're 4-2-1. And against the NFC, they have not lost yet this season. They are 3-0 against non-conference opponents. The funny thing about that is, so are the Saints. Unfortunately, in this game, I just feel like everything that the Steelers are good at, the Saints are a little bit better. Steelers have a good quarterback. Saints have a great quarterback. Steelers have a really good receiving core. Saints have a really good receiving core. And I would put those two probably 50-50, all things considered. Steelers have a good run game. Saints have a great run game. Steelers have a good defense. Saints have a really good defense, and it's played incredibly well lately. Steelers have been pretty good on the road. Saints have been killers in their own building. I just think it's the Saints' game to lose. They don't necessarily need to win the game, but I think that win that gets them to win number 13 probably locks up a first-round bye for them, which is incredibly, vitally important to the Saints. I think they get that done this week. Let's take New Orleans at home to hang a loss on Pittsburgh. On the line, Saints are favored by 6 points at home. It might seem like a little much to some people, but I'm actually going to lay those points and take the Saints -6. New Orleans, 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games at home. They started off the season obviously kind of rough at home, back-to-back losses. They've reeled off 4 straight wins against the spread at home. They're also 10-4 against the spread this season. So, I mean, look, not only are they winning, they're winning against the spread. I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. There's not a lot of money to be made betting against the Saints against the spread. So let's take New Orleans -6. Total in the game set at 56 points. I'm going to go a different direction in this one. I'm going to go 28-21 Saints. I think this is all touchdowns, no field goals, and I think it stays well under the 56-point total. And the last game we're going to look at before we get into the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze for week 16, I guess, what would you call it? The penultimate week of the regular season, sees the Seattle Seahawks at home playing host to the Kansas City Chiefs, who have the benefit of being on the long week. Chiefs losing that game to the Chargers on Thursday night last week. You got Seattle, who is really in the driver's seat, again, like I mentioned, for a wild card spot. Seattle lost last week and didn't look particularly good in doing it, but they've been a good home team this season, as they usually are, 4-2 in their own building. Now look, the Chiefs have been beating everybody, so the Chiefs are 5-2 on the road. That's no surprise to anybody. They have lost a game this season, however, against an NFC team. Kansas City obviously still has plenty to play for here. They want to win this division. I just honestly think the Chargers win the division. I think the defense is what wins out there when the offenses are both really capable of scoring points. One is capable of playing defense, the other, not so much. So I think the Chargers win that division, and I think a huge step towards that is I think Seattle upsets Kansas City this week. Second straight game where Kansas City's been a 2.5-point favorite, which basically means Vegas doesn't really know what way to go with that game. I certainly do. I think Seattle, bolstered by the fact that they're in their own building, pull off a big win and take a huge steps towards securing a wild card spot in the NFC. I'm going to take Seattle at home to upset KC. On the line, again, Seattle, 2.5-point dog at home. I like them to win outright, so we're going to take that side of the line, Seattle, plus the 2.5. Total in the game is set at only 53 points. We're going to go 32-30 in favor of Seattle. Plenty of points in this one, well over 53. All right, folks, let's do it. Platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for week 16. We're going to start at the bottom, as always, with my bronze pick, where I'm 10-5 straight up, 7-6-2 against the spread, and 4-11 on the totals. Sees the Dallas Cowboys at home playing host to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Typically, I don't like to put teams in the same position 2 weeks in a row, and if you'll remember my bronze pick last week, I also bet against the Bucks. I took Baltimore to beat Tampa Bay. So I don't like to put them in there 2 weeks in a row, but this is back-to-back road games. You're going to go into Dallas, play a team that's gunning to win their division, has been playing incredibly well since they made that big trade to bring over Amari Cooper. Granted, Dallas did lose last week. I don't think they lose 2 straight games. Dallas playing too well right now. Dallas wants to win this division. They're going to win this week and do just that. I like the Dallas Cowboys at home pretty comfortably to beat Tampa Bay, who has been what's a good way to describe it, terrible road team this year. On the line, Dallas favored by a full touchdown in this one. I'm actually going to take that because the Cowboys are 5-2 against the spread at home. They've been winning. They've been covering at home. Let's do it. It is a full touchdown, but I feel pretty comfortable about it. Let's go Dallas -7. Total in the game set at 46.5 points. I'm going to go 27-17 in favor of the Cowboys. A strong performance on both sides of the ball. I like the game to stay under 46.5. Cowboys win. We're going to hammer Dallas -7 against the spread in a game that stays under 46.5 points. That is your bronze pick. My silver pick, where I'm 10-5 straight up and 7-8 both against the spread and over-under, sees the Oakland Raiders playing host to the Denver Broncos. Safe to say, with 9 wins between them this season, neither one of these teams is sniffing the playoffs. Denver has been about as good on the road as they've been at home this season. They're both at 3-4, Denver having lost 2 straight games. They have still won 3 of their last 5. Raiders, I mean, what else can you say? Like, I've been talking about the Raiders being bad all season. I mean, what can you say? They lost last week. They're only 3-11. They're only 2-5 in their own building. They're 0-4 in the division. Denver's just a better football team, so that's the way I'm going to go in the game. Even though the game's in Oakland, Oakland has won a couple of home games that I felt like they were going to lose this season, and including that game against Pittsburgh. But I mean, I just think Denver wins. I just think Denver's a better football team. So let's take Denver to pound out this game on the road. Broncos in Oakland beat the Raiders. On the line, Raiders are 2.5-point dogs at home. Denver 2.5-point favorites. I like them to win. It's a small price to pay. Let's take Denver minus the 2.5. Total in the game set at 44.5 points. We're going to go 27-20 in favor of Denver. So we're going to go over the 44.5-point total. Denver straight up. We're going to hammer Denver minus 2.5 against the spread in a game that goes over 44.5 points. That is your silver pick. My gold pick, where I'm 12-3 straight up, only 7-8 against the spread and over-under, sees the Tennessee Titans at home playing host to the Washington Redskins. Redskins obviously have not been playing very well due to, in no small part, of course, their carousel of injuries. Now, they did win last week. Props to them. They won a football game that I kind of thought maybe they might lose against Jacksonville in Jacksonville, but of course the wheels have just completely fallen off of Jacksonville. Look, that was a 16-13 football game. That was anybody's football game right down to the last whistle. So congrats, Washington. You won that game. You're not technically out of the wild card race at this point. I certainly don't think they're going anywhere in terms of a playoff race. 7-7. 4-3 on the road, 3-4 in their own building. Nothing overly spectacular. You take a look at Tennessee. Tennessee's 5-1 at home. They might only be 8-6, but they're 5-1 at home. They've won 3 straight games. They've won all 3 games against NFC teams this year. They are in a dogfight for a playoff spot. This is a game that Tennessee cannot afford to lose, and they're not going to lose. Let's take the Titans at home to beat the Redskins. On the line, though, Tennessee's favored by double digits. They're favored by 10 points here, and I just think that's too many points in what I think is gearing up to be a relatively low-scoring game, certainly by this season's standards. I don't know. I don't like Tennessee to cover 10. It's worth pointing out Washington is on back-to-back road games, so that's certainly not going to feel good for them, and they did win last week. So I don't think they win both of them, obviously, because I'm taking Tennessee straight up. I just don't think the Titans cover 10 points. Too many points for me. Let's go Washington plus 10. Total in the game set at 37 points. We're going to go 24-16 in favor of the Tennessee Titans. We're going to go over the 37-point total. Titans win, but we're hedging our bets and going Washington plus 10 against the spread in a game that goes over 37 points. That's your gold pick. And the platinum pick, where I am 13-2 straight up, 7-8 against the spread, and 7-1 on the totals, sees the New England Patriots playing host to the Buffalo Bills. New England not completely out of the conversation for a first-round bye, but look, they have to win out and get some help in order to actually achieve that. I don't think they're going to get there. So they comfortably know where they're going to sit. They're going to get a comfortable home playoff matchup. But this is a game that New England is not going to lose heading into the playoffs. If New England lose this game heading into the playoffs, they're doing nothing in the playoffs. They're probably going to lose in the first round if they lose to a Buffalo Bills team that's only 2-5 on the road. Patriots still have not lost at home. I imagine the Pats will finish either 10-6 or 11-5, but that starts with winning this game this week, despite the fact that they've lost 2 games in a row. They own this division. I think it's pretty well written in stone. We're going to take New England in this one. Let's take the Pats to beat Buffalo. On the line, New England favored by 12.5 points at home, which seems like a really big number for a division matchup, but I'm actually going to take that. I'm going to take those points, lay those points. Patriots minus 12.5. They're actually 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 head-to-head with Buffalo at this line. The last 4 times they've played Buffalo, they've beaten them by at least 13 points. So I feel comfortable with this one. Let's take New England to make a statement here. Patriots minus 12.5. Total in the game set at 45 points. We're going to go 31-18 New England in this one. So we're going to go over the 45-point total. Patriots win. We're going to hammer the Patriots minus 12.5 against the spread in a game that goes over 45 points. That is your platinum pick. There you go, folks. Those are your picks for Week 16 of the 2018 NFL season. It is time now for the patented comment of the week. I actually had a really tough decision on the comment of the week this week. There were 2 really, really good comments this week, but I think I got a skew with my guy, Halfmoon's picks, Mr. Coleman. He's going to get the comment of the week this week. His comment from the Week 15 video was, Lions lose to Buffalo for sure this week, as they haven't won back-to-back road games since the Pet Rock was a thing. Good luck this week. Your picks have been on point. Well, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Halfmoon's picks, your comment was on point. Yours is the comment of the week from the Week 15 episode. There you go, folks. Week 16 is in the books. Enjoy the games of the penultimate week of the NFL season for 2018. Good luck in your fantasy championship matchups if you happen to be there. Best of luck to you. I'm hoping to pull down a couple of titles myself, as I mentioned earlier in the show. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the great folks at Nerd Tees. Have a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday. There's a bunch of different holidays that take place in the month of December and this time of year. So however you celebrate, have a great time. Be safe this holiday season. I don't want to lose any of you. You know, be good to each other. Have a great time. See you next week.